What the 25 most creepy abandoned military bases in the world look like. Once they were the main collection points for soldiers or weapons, but now these islands of the military past attract only adventurers and lovers of abandoned buildings. Every fort, bunker or military hospital in the world has its own unique history. It is impossible to collect them all, but we offer to look at some of the most impressive buildings. Almost all of them were built during the First or Second World Wars and were used by people at best until the end of the 20th century. The Cambridge Military Hospital opened in July 1879 in England. Being the cradle of plastic surgery, it performed many functions for a century, but eventually closed in the 1990s due to the unprofitable increase in operating costs of the aging building. Wunstorf, located about 40 kilometers south of Berlin, was the largest Soviet military base outside the USSR. The base was so large that Wunstorf was even called Little Moscow, and trains to the Soviet capital departed from here daily. Monselsea Forts is the old name of the territory in the north of England, where one of the naval platforms of the British Navy held the first line of defence. The forts were built at the beginning of the Second World War. Sea towers served as towers for defensive actions. The abandoned military base of Albania is located on the strategically important island of Sazani in the Adriatic Sea. In different epochs, the island of Sazani was in the possession of Rome, the Ottoman Empire, Greece, Italy and even Germany. Currently, there are more than 3,600 bunkers on Sazani, and the underground infrastructure consists of tunnels, a cinema, a school and a hospital. Johnston Atoll is located in the North Pacific Ocean southwest of the Hawaiian Islands. On the largest island of the atoll, the runway of the U.S. Air Force has been preserved. In the past, the atoll was the site of a test of American nuclear weapons. Now all weapons there have been destroyed. The Stanley R. Michelson Defense Complex in the north-central part of the United States was a group of military facilities led by a radar system designed for an unknown reason in the form of a pyramid. It was intended to detect and destroy missiles launched by opponents in the United States. The complex was decommissioned on February 10, 1976. The domes in the city of Inuvik in northwestern Canada during the Cold War were used as a system for detecting bombs that could be launched in the direction of North America. After the Cold War, the detection system was discontinued and the structures were abandoned. The Devil's Bunkers in the rocks on the coast of California have been used since the late 1930s as observation platforms for ships. The photo shows one of them. The plot was sold to a private person in 1983. In 1889, a large hospital for workers with tuberculosis was built in the Belitz Heilstätten district in Germany. During the First and Second World Wars, it was used as a military hospital. In 1916 Adolf Hitler was treated there, but no one has restored it for at least 70 years. For many years, an intertwined abandoned fleet, numbering up to 100 warships, sailed off the coast of San Francisco. The ships in it were so damaged that almost all of them ended up in a landfill, the survivors, in a museum. Fort Jefferson, built on an island in the southeastern United States, helped in the fight against piracy in the Caribbean. A high hexagonal brick wall surrounded the living quarters where soldiers and equipment were sheltering. Now the fort serves as a national monument. It is open to tourists. RAF Stanigat is a former World War II radar station. Its characteristic part is 3 huge saucers. There are abandoned structures in the county of Lincolnshire in the east of England. The rusty submarine U-352 at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean preserves the historical past. Built in 1942, she belonged to the Nazis and sank during the Battle of the Atlantic. Now you can go down to her with scuba gear. The Cape May Bunker, built off the coast in New Jersey, served to store weapons off the east coast of the United States at the beginning of World War II, when the military leadership considered that the war would come close to American shores. It is now part of the park. Duga No. 1 in the Chernobyl area was one of the Soviet over-the-horizon radar stations for early detection of intercontinental ballistic missile launches. The station's antennas are built on the principle of a phased array antenna. Swiss military bunkers are located in the Alps. With their help, neutral Switzerland was ready to repel military attacks during the World Wars. Most of them have been abandoned for a long time. The underground airbase Zeljava, one of the largest in Europe, is located on the border of Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. During the World Wars, it housed fighters. In the 1980s, the main part of the underground base collapsed. Fort Terry, built in 1898 off the coast of New York, was used for defense during the Spanish-American War and other wars. In the second half of the 20th century, it became a military center for the study of animals and biological warfare, and later became a nature reserve. The Charleston Naval Shipyard, opened in 1901, participated in many U.S. wars as a home for ship repairs and construction. In 1995, this place was closed. A number of island forts off the coast of Britain were built in Victorian times to resist the French invasion. Later they wanted to use them for protection from enemy submarines. In the photo, Fort No Man's Land. Fort Tilden is a former U.S. Army military base near New York City. During the Second World War, it was strengthened, but the building stood unnecessarily until 1974. Since then, the fort has been part of the national park. Fort Ord, located on the central coast of California, is one of the most picturesque abandoned places in North America. In the past, it was used as a training center for the U.S. Army infantry. Its views attract many photographers. Bannerman's Castle is located near the city of Newburgh in the U.S. state of New York. It is named after the owner Frank Bannerman, who used it to store ammunition that was for sale. After the death of the owner in 1918, the castle began to collapse. Some of the shells and gunpowder detonated, destroying the building. 3 1960s mines are located underground in eastern Washington. They house Titan I missiles. Now concrete and steel structures with thick walls can boast of a mixture of tunnels and intricately arranged underground rooms. Now protected by lakes and swamps, the Wolf's Lair complex in Poland was Adolf Hitler's main headquarters during the Second World War. In total, Hitler spent 850 days here, from the summer of 1941 to the late autumn of 1944, until his departure to Berlin.